Hey guys, we're going to have a quick geometry lesson on the type of angles. So I want you to look at the middle one. It's called a right angle, and it meets at a perfectly square corner. And do you remember we talked about perpendicular lines meet at a perfectly square corner? When they say 90 degrees, they're not talking about temperature. They're talking about how open the angle is. So if it's a perfect L, that angle is just right. It's a right angle. And then if it's closed any tighter than the right angle, it's called a cute little angle. It's closed a little smaller. So if this was the 90-degree angle mark would be right there, where it would be a perfect, kind of like an L. And you can see it's closed smaller than that. So it's a cute little angle. And then the obtuse angle is open wide, like we would open our mouth really wide when we sneeze and say obtuse. So this is where if it was a right angle, it would be right here. And you can see it's open wider than that. So it's an obtuse angle. A square or a rectangle has all right angles, where they're at a perfect L or perfect square corner. All of the line segments in a square are perpendicular. So perpendicular lines, like we've been working on, and right angles are related. A star shape is full of acute angles that are closed smaller than 90 degrees. And then an octagon, I had to count the sides here. Octa means 8, like an octopus has 8 tentacles. So an octagon has obtuse angles that are opened wider than 90 degrees. Now we're going to talk about three-dimensional shapes and their faces, edges, and vertices. That's how you say vertex in the plural form. So this is a rectangular prism. The face of a shape is its flat spots. All of its flat surfaces, those are the faces. And even the base of the shape that it's sitting on is a face. So don't forget to count the base that the shape sits on as one of the faces. The edges are like the outlines or the creases where the different faces meet, would be the edges. And then the vertex or the vertices are the corners of the shape. And on paper, whenever I count the vertices, I usually will dot the corners. And you see they've got a dot there, and then I would dot all of the corners or the vertices to help me not lose count. All of these shapes here are pyramids, but one thing we need to know about a pyramid is it's named by the shape of its base or whatever it is sitting on. So if you look at this one, you can see its base is a triangle. So that's called a triangular pyramid. And then if you look at the base of this one, it's got 5 sides, and we know the prefix penta means 5. So since its base is a pentagon, this is called a pentagonal pyramid. And then the base of this one is a square. It sits on a square base. And a square is a special kind of rectangle where all of the sides are the same length. So that's a rectangular pyramid. I've also seen that called a square pyramid. And then here I see the prefix hex, H-E-X, and we know that means 6. So the base of this pyramid is a hexagon with 6 sides. So this is a hexagonal pyramid. These are all skills that we are going to be practicing more later. This is just an introduction to these things. I'm about to show you some examples of transformations, and when something transforms, that means it changes in some way. So I want you to look at the word translation and think about the SL in translation. A translation is a slide. So if I took my hand and I just slid it to a new area, it didn't flip, it didn't rotate, it stayed exactly the same, and it just slid to another area, that's when a shape translates. A reflection is a flip. So look at that FL in reflection to remind you that is a flip. If I took my hand and I flipped it over, or made it a reflection is like what you see in the mirror, where you're nose to nose with yourself, and your image is flipped towards yourself. A rotation, the T reminds us a rotation is a turn. If the shape turns or rotates, then it has undergone a rotation. Here are some examples. So a translation is a slide. The star just slid over to a new spot. This is a reflection or a flip. That triangle just flipped over, and it's looking at a mirror image of itself. It's nose to nose with itself. And then a rotation is a turn. The H and the pentagon it's inside of just rotated to the side. I thought the rectangular pyramid might be a good shape to give you an example of counting the faces, edges, and vertices. So the faces are the flat spots. So we have 1, 2, that one in the back, 3, 4, and you can't forget that the base it sits on is a face. So the rectangular pyramid has 5 faces. And then the edges are where the faces meet. It's like the outlines of the shape. And I like to kind of color them in or trace them as I count. So there's 1, 2, the one in the back, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the rectangular pyramid has 8 edges. And the vertices are the corners. Think about the V in the word vertices. It has a corner. The vertices are the corners of the shape, and I like to dot them as I count. 1, that one in the back, 2, 3, 4, 5 vertices.